Section 12. Structured Query Language 1. Introduction. Previously, the study sessions have dwelt so much on the design aspect of the database, the external and conceptual models. This was very important to give you a solid foundation in creating efficient databases that are less prone to anomalies. Internal view of data abstraction as discussed in study section 2. Database design is intended for some databases to be created, and this is realized by a database access language called Structured Query Language (SQL), which has become a standard language for creating, managing, and manipulating databases. Most DBMS today now implement this language following its standards, so this lesson should be able to get you started on any DBMS of your choice. In this study session, you will be introduced to the basic commands and functions of SQL, how to use SQL for data administration to create tables, indexes, and views, and how to use SQL for data manipulation to add, modify, delete, and retrieve data. Learning outcomes. At the end of this study session, you should be able to know the basic commands and functions of SQL, how to use SQL for data administration to create tables, indexes, and views, how to use SQL for data manipulation to add, modify, delete, and retrieve data. The basic commands and functions of SQL. SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and it has become the standard language for database access and manipulation. Although there are many SQL dialects, the American National Standards Institute (ANSI) prescribes a standard SQL. SQL is a relatively simple language which operates with commands in form of keywords and functions. SQL statements command are divided into two major categories which are listed in the figure 12.1 below. 1. Data Definition Language (DDL). 2. Data Manipulations Language (DML). The basic commands and functions of SQL are listed below. Alter table SQL command. Function: it modifies an existing table. You can modify the name, type, precision, scale, null value support, and referential integrity rules for each field in the table. Create cursor SQL command. Function: create a temporary table. Each field in the temporary table is defined with a name, type, precision, scale, null value support, and referential integrity rules. These definitions can be obtained from the command itself or from an array. Create SQL view command. Function: create a table. Each new table field is defined with a name, type, precision, scale, null value support, and referential integrity rules. These definitions can be obtained from the command itself or from an array. Delete SQL command. Function: marks records in a table for deletion using SQL syntax. Insert SQL command. Function: appends a new record to the end of an existing table. The new record contains data listed in the insert command or from an array. Select SQL command. Function: specifies the criteria on which a query is based and issues the query. Visual Fox Pro interprets the query and retrieves the specified data from the tables. The select command is built into Visual Fox Pro like any other Visual Fox Pro command. You can create a select command query in these areas. SQL parse through foundation class function makes it possible for you to execute stored procedure on a host database such as Microsoft SQL Server. 1. In the command window, select command query. To 2. In the Visual Fox Pro program. To 3. In the query designer. Figure 12.2, areas where select command query can be created. SQL cancel. Function: request cancellation of an executing SQL statement. SQL columns. Function: stores a list of column names and information about each column for the specified data source table to a Visual Fox Pro cursor. SQL commit. Function: commit a transaction. SQL connect. Function: establishes a connection to a data source. SQL disconnect function terminates a connection to a data source. SQL exec function sends an SQL statement to the data source where the statement is processed. SQL getPro function returns current or default settings for an active connection. SQL more results function copies another result set to a virtual first pro cursor if more result sets are available. SQL prepare function prepares an SQL statement for remote execution by SQL exec. SQL rollback function cancels any changes made during the current transaction. SQL setPro function specifies settings for an active connection. SQL string connect function establishes a connection to a data source through a connection string. SQL tables function stores the names of tables in a data source to a virtual first pro cursor. Update SQL command function update records in a table. The records can be updated based on the result of a select SQL statement. Data definition language DDL. DDL describes the SQL commands which define the structure of SQL objects such as tables, views, and schema. Examples of DDL commands are create, alter, and drop. A simple database tables will be used to illustrate commands. Customer invoice, line, product, and vendor tables. Our focus will be on product and vendor tables. The completed database model showing all the entities mentioned above is shown in figure 12.3 below. Creating a database. In creating a database, two tasks must be completed. Create database structure. Create tables that will hold end-user data. In the first task, the relational DBMS RDBMS create physical files that will hold the database, and this differs substantially from one RDBMS to another. The database schema. A schema is a group of database objects that are related to each other, e.g., tables and indexes. Schema usually belongs to a user or application. So, the DBMS requires authentication to grant access. Schemas help enforce security at the first level of the database by allowing each user to see only the object that belongs to him or her. The DBMS verifies that only registered users are able to access database. You will need to log onto your RDBMS using your user ID and password created by the database administrator. SQL data types. The selection of a data type is usually dictated by the nature of the data and its intended use. Some supported data types in SQL are 1. Number, LD, integer, small int, decimal, LD. 2. Char, L, virtual L, virtual 2L. 3. Date, time, timestamp. 4. Real, double, float. Creating table structures. To create table structures, bear the following in mind. Use one line per column. Attribute definition. Use spaces to line up attribute characteristics and constraints. Table and attribute names are capitalized. A semicolon, hence an SQL command sequence. Certain constraints are used with the create table syntax to specify constraints on table attributes. Let's look at some of these constraints. A. Not null constraint ensure that column does not accept nulls. B. Unique constraint ensures that all values in column are unique. C. Default constraint assigns value to attribute when a new row is added to table. D. Check constraint validates data when attribute value is entered. Note that primary key attributes should contain both not null and unique constraints. When a primary key is declared, the DBMS automatically creates a unique index. Additional indexes can be created on any selected attribute using the create index command. An index can also be a composite index if it is based on 2 or more attributes. This is often used to prevent data duplication. Now you are ready to implement the product and vendor table structures with the help of SQL using the create table syntax shown next. Note that optional commands are enclosed in square brackets. Create table, table name, column 1, data type constraint, column 2, data type constraint, primary key, column 1, column 2, foreign key, column 1, column 2, references, table name, constraint, constraint. Now use this syntax to create the two tables as follows. Create table vendor, vcode integer not null unique, vname virtual 35 not null, vcontact virtual 15 not null, varea code char 3 not null, vphone char 8 not null, vstate char 2 not null, vorder char 1 not null, primary key vcode. Data Manipulation Language (DML). DML commands are those SQL commands that are used to manipulate the contents of database objects. Examples of SQL DML include insert, select, commit, update, rollback, and delete. Also, DML statements are used to work with the data in tables. When you are connected to most multi-user databases, whether in a client program or by a connection from a web page script, you are in effect working with a private copy of your tables that can't be seen by anyone else until you are finished or tell the system that you are finished. You have already seen the select statement. It is considered to be part of DML even though it just retrieves data rather than modifying it. The insert statement is used, obviously, to add new rows to a table. Adding table rows. The insert command is used to enter data into a table. Note that insert is used to create an entire row and not just an attribute. The syntax is as follows. Insert into TableMate values value 1, value 2 to value n. When entering values, notice that row contents are entered between parentheses, character and date values are entered between apostrophes. Numerical entries are not enclosed in apostrophes. Attribute entries are separated by commas. A value is required for each column. Use null for unknown values. Saving table changes. Changes made to table content are not physically saved on disk until the database is closed, the program is closed, or the commit command is used. The syntax of the commit command is commit work. Listing table rows. Retrieving data from the database is probably the most frequent operation carried out on the database. In this regard, the select command is the most versatile. As you will recall from relational algebra in lesson 6, the select command, similar to the select operator, is used to retrieve list table content. The syntax is select columnist from table name. Columnists represent one or more attributes separated by commas. Asterisk can be used as wildcard character to list all attributes in a table. Updating table rows. The update command is used to modify an already created row in a table. The syntax of the update command is update table name, set column name, expression, column name is equal to expression, where condition list. If more than one attribute is to be updated in a row, separate corrections with commas. Restoring table content. The rollback command undoes changes since the last commit and brings data back to pre-change values. The syntax is simply rollback. Note, commit and rollback only work with commands to add, modify, or delete table rows. Deleting table rows. Created table rows are deleted with the delete command. The syntax is delete from table name where condition is. The where condition is optional, and if it is not specified, all rows from the specified table will be deleted. So be careful when you use the delete option. Be sure you write in such a way that deletes exactly what you intend and does not delete important items of data. Summary. As we conclude this study session 12, you are expected to have learned that 1. SQL stands for Structured Query Language and it has become the standard language for database access and manipulation. 2. Alter table, SQL command. 3. Function, it modifies an existing table. You can modify the name, type, precision, scale, null value support, and referential integrity rules for each field in the table. 4. DDL describes the SQL commands which define the structure of SQL objects such as tables, views, and schema. Examples of DDL commands are create, alter, and drop. 5. A schema is a group of database objects that are related to each other, e.g., tables and indexes. Schema usually belongs to a user or application. 6. DML commands are those SQL commands that are used to manipulate the content of database objects. Examples of SQL DML include insert, select, commit, update, rollback, and delete. 7. The insert command is used to enter data into a table. Note that insert is used to create an entire row and not just an attribute. This is the end of study section 12. Thanks for listening.